But will the election in Georgia be this for the Senate, the special election? Will it be the same way that the presidential election, the election we had on November 3rd, was? I mean, clearly the last election created like a moral hazard for future elections. I don't know if you agree with that, but my question is, even everyone is at least taking a better look with more details on the election process right now, would they be able to pull out the same tricks that they did on the presidential election for the Senate election? I mean,
To some degree, but not to the full same scale. So the Secretary of State finally decided to purge the voter rolls of people who should not have been on the voter rolls after the general election before the runoff. I think almost 200,000 voters. So that makes it a little bit harder.
okay.
They've been saying that they're going to enforce signature matches this time around. So that will make that part a little bit harder.
But they said it last time as well, right?
Yes, oh yes, no doubt about it. But he's made more of a show of it than he did prior to the general election.
Okay.
So the short answer is that it will be not as easy, but still easier than a normal election. Because as you pointed out, no, it was a clear moral hazard. They gave him the motive, said Trump man bad, he's the next fascist, orange man bad, all that nonsense. Then they gave him the means by mass mail-in balloting by removing all of the guardrails that protect against fraud. And then they said, by the way, you're highly unlikely to ever get caught or punished. Well, I mean, you couldn't, it'd be like leaving the safe open, telling everybody you left the safe open, leaving for a month, and telling, by the way, if anything is stolen, we're not going to do anything about it afterwards, and expecting all the money to still be in the safe. So it's not quite as bad. Like basically now the safe is open, but the front door is locked, and you got to sneak, and there's a chance you'll get.
Everybody's watching, right? I mean, the
Yeah,
people.
exactly. So that's why it will be. The other thing is there was much more commitment to defeating Trump than there was electing Democrats to either the House or the Senate. So while the fraud is there, the commitment to helping the Democrats is nowhere near as strong as it was to willingness to do it against Trump. So, and they also outsourced it. So I believe a lot of the fraud that occurred was people who said, I got to beat Hitler, so I'm going to go do this. But they don't feel that same way about the Senate. So that's why there'll be less questionable ballots in the runoff than there was in the general, but there'll be more than there was in a typical election because they still have not cleaned up the full process of how things are done.
If they win the election, do you think they're going to try to pack the court? I mean, if they take the Senate.
Biden doesn't want anything to do with that. So
Okay.
Biden is sort of an old school corrupt institutionalist, but he's not an ideologue at all. He could care less about left, right, medium. He cares about what lines his pockets and what gets him pats on the back. So Harris would absolutely try to pack the court. Biden is not interested in doing so. He doesn't want to be seen as that guy. So he didn't want to admit that during the election because he didn't want to disappoint his left base, but I don't think he has any interest in actually doing so. So it would have to be a President Harris to do that. The other thing is the senator from West Virginia, some Democratic senators aren't interested in that either.
Okay.
I think what the left will be surprised at is it's going to be the Barack Obama neoliberals that are in control. You'll have some wokesters in positions of influence, but you're not going to have labor folks in the areas of influence. It's going to be Wall Street. It's going to be Washington. It's going to be the defense industry. It's going to be old school lobbyists because that's the world Biden comes from. Biden is much more Tammany Hall than he is Berkeley Hall. I mean, that's who he is. So expect that form of governance. A lot of corruption, but not necessarily a lot of ideological craziness.